I received a message from one of my graduates the other day, and he sent me a link to a video on a new supplement. A supplement is going to improve your health and wellness and performance, and he asked, what do you think about this? And he may have been convinced by the video, and I watched it and it sounded very, very convincing. However, sometimes something can be convincingly wrong, and you as a fitness professional or exercise professional, you have to be able to differentiate what is maybe sincerely, convincingly wrong versus what is right. Because as a fitness exercise professional, you need to give the right information for your clients so they can achieve their goal safely and effectively and efficiently. And in this day and age with YouTube and Facebook and all the social media, we are inundated with virtually millions of videos with people sharing their views, because now everyone has a platform. And on that platform, all those views regarding nutrition and training and supplementation and life in general, many times all contradict each other. And many times they use that as a platform to sell something, whether it be selling an idea, selling a product to make money, or selling their vanity or their ego, whatever it might be. So what's important is when you come across a video, an article, a brochure, a seminar, and you listen to it, you go, wow, that sounds quite convincing, because these can be very, very convincing. However, you have to be able to cut through that smoke cloud of how can I say, marketing or promotion or vibe or energy to find and seek the truth. So let me take you through a process of how you can evaluate the effectiveness and the credibility of any, let's use supplements for this, because supplements is a billion-dollar industry and there's lots of profit in it, and it's very easy to sell solutions or hope in a powder, a pill or a potion. And some work and most don't, as you probably already know. But how can you differentiate that if you're not actually a published, peer-reviewed research scientist? So step number one is, first thing you have to do is seek the facts, the undisputable facts regarding that area of, or that topic. So that might be, you have to find the correct anatomy or physiology or chemistry or physics or macro or micronutrition. So get all the underlying facts that are undisputable, that people can't argue with. Now, there's always going to be some extremist who's going to argue, but they're the extremists. An argument and the extreme is many times a weak argument, and the more extreme they are, the smaller they are, the louder they bark on their views of the world of what it might be. But just disregard the extreme views, because there are people out there who still believe and are trying to convince everyone the earth is too flat. Now, I can't say that it's flat or round, but most of the evidence or most of the authority bodies in the world, we say it's round, and I've travelled to well over 60 different countries in the world, and I get a good feeling that it's round, not flat, even though they may be able to project a convincing argument. So number one, it's important that you get all the facts, as close to the facts as you possibly can, because once you've got those facts, many times that will answer 95% plus of the questions that you may have. But if you don't know the facts and you don't know the knowledge, the fundamental knowledge, the undisputable fundamental knowledge, it's easy to be led down someone else's garden path, and you're very easy to be convinced to buy something or to buy into something that you're not fully aware of, particularly when someone uses a lot of big words that you don't know the meaning of. And in this profession, in this, the supplementation, you can actually be in a position where people can say they can use a little bit of facts wrapped with a lot of misleading information, a little bit of truth wrapped with a lot of bullshit. It's very easy to sell, excuse my French. So in this case, let's have a look at the example that was given to me just recently on evaluating this video. And I went back to my graduate and gave him this process to go through. Number one is get all the facts. And the topic was about amino acids. And this was saying that amino acids isn't necessarily completely comprehensive in food anymore. You can't get all your amino acids from food, and if you do get your amino acids from food, particularly the essential amino acids, then your body can't absorb them, they can't use them because they're in the wrong formula. But with my amino acid type of supplementation, I have the correct formula and the correct chain and the correct molecular structure to make it easy absorbable and usable, and they're going to enhance your performance, and you're going to be full of vitality and energy. And it sounded quite convincing to someone who doesn't know anything about amino acids, and before you know it, they'll be spending money on buying amino acid pills and take them every day, thinking that's going to give them longevity and wellness and strength and power and performance and all that type of stuff. So number one is that you have to go to the facts of amino acids, and when you listen to the video, there are some truths throughout the video regarding amino acids. However, the application and the full picture wasn't given with regards to amino acids. So let's go look at, for this video, let's use amino acids. So amino acids are basically the building blocks of proteins. Now in the body you have thousands of proteins that make up the body, from the bone to the skin to the muscles to the tendons to the eyes. So proteins are used for everything you touch, and it's also used in metabolic processes as well. And any protein is made up of amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. And in when it comes to amino acids, you have anywhere between 20 to 22 amino acids. Now that varies depending on the literature. So for this discussion, let's say 20 amino acids, and out of those 20 there's 8 or 9 which are essential amino acids. For this discussion, let's use 8 because it is arguable whether there's 9. So there's 20 amino acids that are building blocks for proteins that the body uses, and they can structure those amino acids and proteins into many thousands of different ways for the body to use it. 8 of those amino acids are what we call essential amino acids, which means the body cannot make it. You have to source that amino acids from food. As you have to source protein amino acids from food, 8 of them you have to get from food. The other 12, your body has the ability to manufacture and build within your body. So 28 essential. You can get them from food. 8 has to be from food. The other 12 you can make in your body. However, most people, they eat enough to cover all the amino acids in their diet. Now, there are 2 types of foods. There's a food which has complete proteins in it, and complete proteins are foods that have all the amino acids. All the 20 are in those foods, so we call them complete proteins. Now, those foods are sourced from animals. So any form of meats or dairy or poultry, things like fish, they will have complete protein, which they'll have all the 20 amino acids, including the 8 essential amino acids. On the other hand, there are foods which have incomplete proteins in it, which means they have some of the amino acids, but not all of them. Now, those foods would tend to be more plant-based, things such as vegetables and grains and cereals and those types of foods. So they are foods that have incomplete proteins. However, if you have a variety of those throughout the day, with all that variety collectively, you get all your amino acids, all the 20 plus the 8 essential if you have a variety of foods. Obviously, if you don't have a variety, then you may actually miss out on some of those essential amino acids through certain foods. So if you are a meat eater, you don't have to worry about anything, or you drink milk, you don't have to worry about anything, or eat cheeses or anything like that, because they're going to have all your complete proteins in it. If you're a vegetarian, then you may have to be a bit more aware that you may have to have a more variety of foods to make sure that you get all your amino acids, including your essential amino acids. So basically, at the end of this, of all the factual parts, is that you can get all your amino acids from food. If you eat meats or any animal source, you're definitely going to get all your amino acids, including the essential amino acids. And if you're a vegetarian, then you're going to maybe have to have a bit more variety of foods. Now, the other fact is when you eat food, then the body will break that down and will break all the proteins and the amino acids out, and they'll go into what we call your amino acid pool. Basically, it's held in the blood where all the amino acids float around. So you have this pool, or this reserve of amino acids. So all your amino acids are broken apart, and then when the body needs those amino acids, they will rebuild those amino acids into the way they need them to build tissue or use for metabolic processes. So basically it's all broken down and then it's rebuilt inside the body the way that the body needs it. It doesn't go in one way and be used exactly that way. It goes in, broken apart, and then rebuilt the way the body uses it. So they are basically the fundamental facts, the indisputable facts, except from the extremists. I know there's always going to be loud extremists on the edges screaming, no, that's not true, and that's okay. You want to believe that, good for you, And however, you know, the undisputable facts on the mainstream of science, these are the facts. Now, once you've established all that, many times just going through that, they will answer your question whether this video brochure or this article or magazine article has any truth to it, or they're trying to sell you something. Now, the next step before you even start to cross-compare your facts with the claims that they're making, let's look at the origin of the message. So first of all, if you look at the video or the brochure or the article, whatever it might be, first of all, ask these questions. Number one, what is the purpose of the video? What is the purpose of the article or the brochure? What is its overall purpose? Two, is the purpose of that information there to sell you something? Is it there to sell you a product? Is it there to sell someone's expertise? Is it there to sell a business opportunity? Is it there to sell a seminar or sell a course? Or maybe it could be there to sell someone's vanity or ego. They need to be the chosen one to enlighten everyone, to make themselves feel good. So if you ask that question, then you probably start to think, okay, maybe they have a reason of why they're producing this video, because they're trying to sell me something. Does the person who's written it or saying it or producing it or marketing it, do they have a vested interest? Do they profit financially from it? Are they selling you something? Are they upgrading you into a course? Are they trying to promote themselves up the chain of importance? So do they have a vested interest? Do they own the business? And many times, you will find that they will have a vested interest, which means if they have a vested interest, then they're going to give you all the information that will serve them, not necessarily provide all the truth. The next question is, what are the credentials and qualifications and experience of the messenger or the person who's trying to sell you something or promote something or inform you? What are their qualifications? Are they an expert in that particular field, or are they just a messenger? For example, they might be a doctor, and there's lots of people going around with doctors in front of their name. But a doctor of what? I've got a master's degree, but that master's degree doesn't mean I'm a master of everything. It basically just means I'm a master of that small specific area, and I'll grab it here, of expertise. This is my master's thesis, which is on the baseball throwing velocity, the effects of weight training, plyometrics, and ballistic weight training. So basically, my master's degree was very specifically in the area of sporting performance and the intervention of strength and power training, how that affected sporting performances measured by baseball throwing velocity and running speed. So yes, I have a master's degree in health science, but that doesn't mean I'm a physiologist. I'm more of a biomechanist. But because I have a master's doesn't mean I know everything, and I definitely would never say that or project that or give you the impression of that. I just like to ask questions to get myself thinking and you thinking. So they may be a doctor, but are they a GP? Are they what doctor? You can be a doctor. You can have a doctorate in frogology these days, and anything you want. So just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that what they're saying is true. Never be overwhelmed by someone's credentials or qualifications or status or position, because that doesn't mean where they are doesn't mean they are right. You have to make that decision yourself. So are they qualified in that area, or are they just trying to sell something, whatever that something might be? And is their message or what they're saying, is that also agreed upon with the leading world authorities in this particular area? So in the area of sports performance, amino acids, nutrition, is the American College of Sports Medicine, or the American Dietetic Association, or the Canadian Dietetic Association, or the Academy of Health and Nutrition, are these leading authorities which are really put together in associations who have no vested interest, because they don't get paid to do anything. They just get paid to deliver the information and do the research and do all the literature reviews and create the position statements based on a group of people who are PhDs and specialise in that particular area. And everything they say have to be referenced to a peer-reviewed published research study. So do these associations agree with that claim? And I use the amino acid supplementation. Yes, they have done the literature review. They did a position statement collectively for the American College of Sports Medicine, the American Dietetic Association, and the Canadian Dietetic Association. as a group, they did a whole literature review. They did a position statement which lists all the research in that particular area. They looked at all the pros, they gave you all the information, and they all agree that supplementation of amino acids, there's no evidence whatsoever that it has any extra benefit to you than from getting it from food. So from an association point of view, from an authority point of view, you have to look at what do the associations or the authorities say. Now that doesn't mean they're always correct. I understand that, because if you go back to what any organisation was saying 100 years ago, it's probably we found, well, maybe we were wrong back then. But you're trying to get as close to right as possible. And close to right as possible is not just relying on one person who has an opinion and a vested interest in what they're claiming, and particularly when they're trying to sell you something. Now, the other question to ask is this video, article, what is the evidence that they're actually producing to prove their claim? You know, are they referencing peer-reviewed, published research studies in reputable research journals? Or are they studying some Mickey Mouse anecdotal studies or clinical research shows? Well, clinical research means nothing, because clinical means it's not published, means it's never been reviewed by experts. It's just someone did a study in their own backyard or in their own clinic, or whatever it might be, came up with an outcome that says clinical studies show. So you've got to be very careful. That can be very misleading by, say, anecdotal evidence or my research shows, but it's not published. My research shows I trained my dog, gave him the supplement, he ran faster and you went through a bone faster. They can say whatever you want, but you've got to be careful that their research is actually reputable to start with and is recognised. And the other aspect is they have to make sure that it's wholesome. Means they're not just picking out a research study that supports their claim and ignoring all the other research that doesn't support their claim. For example, when a position statement is presented by a leading organisation, health authority, sports medicine association, they have to do a literature review of all the research and say, okay, well, this is what the research shows. It's heavily weighted that it does work or not work, or definitely works or doesn't work. But they can't just ignore the research that disagrees or has the outcome that doesn't support their view. And many times, you find that people who are trying to sell something, they'll do what we call selective referencing. They'll grab research that only supports their view and ignore all the rest. So that's a great question to ask. Is this person giving you the full picture, or are they just giving their view of the picture and ignoring all the rest? Because if there's 100 study research says this and one says that, then those 100 should really see, well, basically this is what happens, and this is maybe there's something wrong with the methodology of that study. And if we really want to dig into it, if they are going down the path of referencing a research study, have a read of it. Many times when I've gone down that path, what they say that study says is not what it actually says when you actually read the methodology, the results, and even sometimes the conclusion is actually not in full alignment with actually the results and the methodology, because sometimes the researcher can be emotionally biased in terms, and that's why they went there, did the research, because they had a point to prove, and maybe didn't come out the way they wanted. But at least you're getting closer to the truth. So they do reference research. Is it all the research, or is it just the research that I'm picking to prove my point? The next question is what they're selling, can you get it from food? So obviously I'm relying more on the supplementation of food or macro and micronutrients. Can you get it from food? So for example, amino acids, can you get it from food? The answer is yes. So whatever supplement you're reviewing, ask yourself, can I get it from food? If the answer is yes, then why would I spend extra money on something which is more synthetic and maybe not as natural? Because sometimes food presents macro and micronutrients in a way that is in a formula that is more acceptable and usable by the body. So they put the right proportions of the micronutrients where they work as a catalyst to work with each other to have that holistic effect. But as soon as you take one out or group out, then that may actually disrupt the formula, where you might be, say, have too much of one and not enough of the other, where the formula is not right. I guess it's like baking a cake. If you miss a couple of ingredients, the cake doesn't rise because you've missed some of the ingredients, or too much of one ingredient makes the cake not work as well. So the beautiful thing with food from nature, that it's actually made in a way that it acts in a holistic way, that the vitamins and the minerals all work together to help each other have the full effect not to mention all the other phytochemicals, the thousands of phytochemicals that are present in food, particularly plant-based food, that we don't even know their full role, how they work as a catalyst in assisting to get the full benefit. And many times if you take one out, then it actually disrupts the formula, therefore it becomes deemed not effective. And there's many cases of this. And when it comes to amino acids in food, you get it. Taking a pill doesn't make any particular difference based on the research findings from, for example, the American College of Sports Medicine and so on. So if you can't find it in food, if they say you can't get this in food, then you say, why not? If it's not in food, why do I need it? Then it's probably something which is probably not natural if you can't get it in food. If they're saying, well, you can't get it as much in food for whatever reason, because food is now deficient and the soils are depleted, and they go down that path, then that opens up another question of why? Why are you saying that? And where's the evidence? That opens up another box to say, well, where's the evidence to show that? Because maybe you're using that to sell this. Yes, there's no vitamins in food anymore, so you have to get it from the pill because the soils are depleted and climate change, or whatever reason they come up, and that opens up another discussion of how much truth is in that. Or they say this formula is better than food. They say, why is it better than food? And where's the evidence to show that it's actually better than food? So it might be in food, but they think they can present it in a better way, or maybe a better formula or more concentrated way. And you have to say, well, that's great, it's more concentrated, but has a different formula. Does it mean it actually works any better? So when it comes to, can you get it in food? It's no longer in food, there's not as much in food. If that is the case, then the other obvious question is, then how has society and people lived for thousands and thousands of years without it? We seem to have gotten by, but all of a sudden we need it now. But if you go back hundreds and thousands of years ago, we were quite happy, and we all survived quite happily without it. So that might be a good question to ask. All of a sudden you need it, otherwise this is going to happen. Then, well, hey, it didn't happen before when we didn't even know about it. Or they will say, people are getting sicker today because they haven't got this. Well, maybe that might be a small part of it, but maybe there's many other contributions or contributors to disease and sickness, obesity and diabetes, which may not be a lack of a supplement. Are we obese because of what supplement? Because I haven't been taking this supplement? Or am I obese because I eat too much, so I don't exercise, and I eat the wrong foods, and I have a sedentary lifestyle, and I'm quite stressed? So there's all these other contributing factors that will probably be bigger contributors to that disease, because disease means you're not at ease, dis-ease. But a lot of people will try to find a quick fix in a pill, because that's easier to fix, and it's easier to sell, and easier to profit from as well. So the other question, if it's a performance-based supplement, for example, people who take this run faster and they lift heavier and they're more energetic and stuff like that, then you ask an obvious question is, are there other performers or athletes out there who have performed to this level or above without the supplement? Because if they have, then maybe it's not the supplement. Maybe you're using an example, but that example is not really the best example, because the other example doesn't use the supplement. So you're picking the people who support your claim by, many times they're sponsored to use those supplements, and they're already champions before they actually started using the supplement. They give it to free so they can use their name and their fame and their performance to persuade you, because hey, if that elite athlete does it, it must be okay. Well, how long have they been taking it, and did they start taking it when you sponsored them and they were already a champion before, and are they the best champion? Maybe there are other people out there who have achieved greater things without it. So just be very careful not to be persuaded by the fame or the the athletic performances of elite athletes, because many times they're going to be elite athletes anyway and perform anyway, no matter what they have in form of supplementation. There's lots of supplements that say take this and you build lots of muscles, and they use a famous bodybuilder to promote it. Take this supplement, take this protein powder, but did they get that muscle size from that supplement or protein powder, or were there other factors involved, which we won't discuss here, that gave them the muscle size to get the fame, so they can promote a powder or potion or pill, so they can now actually make money out of their fame? That's an interesting question, isn't it? So just be aware that people many times will say whatever they're told to say to profit, unfortunately. And one of the final questions is ask yourself, do you really need this supplement? You know, do you really need this supplement to have a better life, feel better, perform better, or are there more obvious things that you can change in your life that's going to give you a greater return on your time and even on your dollar? Because many of these things actually can be quite expensive. And you say, well, maybe you're dealing with a minor where you should deal with some of the majors, and that's going to make the biggest difference. And this minor is probably a minor because A, it doesn't work, or it's only really a minor, or it's a side product of not doing the majors changes in your life that's going to give the results, whether it be weight loss or performance or well-being or fighting against disease, whatever it might be. Maybe you need to make some significant changes in other areas before you start considering that this little contributor here is going to change all of this. But maybe you should deal with this first, and then if you need it after that, then fine. But some people, they feel this is my insurance policy, taking these supplements, whatever it might be. And if you feel that way, then fantastic. It's a free will. You can do whatever you want. As a fitness professional, you have to make sure that you're honest with yourself and the people who are paying you for your advice to make sure you give them all the evidence, all the research, all the views, not just the view that's going to profit you.